Vision. I'm Melanie. Thanks so much for clicking. To my returning family, the Visionaries, thank you for your continuous love and support. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please feel at home. Have you had an opportunity to subscribe to the channel yet? If not, take a second, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to like and share. As the elections in South Africa approach for 2024, many people are busy on the ground. All the political parties are really taking action. They're trying to get people to register to vote. And I've heard over and over again that the youth are going to make a difference in these elections. We've seen what's been going on the university campuses with the elections of the SRCs. And definitely there is action happening, and youth are proving to be excellent leaders. I came across a video of the EFF youth leader, and he was addressing a press conference, and I was really impressed, and was proven to me that yes, the youth are the future. In this press conference, he addressed the topics of concern for the EFF, talked about the victories and the challenges that the SRCs had on the different campuses in South Africa. He also talked about the scandal of what's happening with the financial aid across South Africa for students, and talked about the South African Student Council Union and how it really needs to be reformed. All these things were said very well, confidently, articulately, and compassionately. This also was well prepared and probably practiced, but let's take a listen to what he had to say. But when we come back, I want to talk mainly how he addressed and handled the media. Take a listen.
The Economic Freedom Fighters Student Command takes this opportunity to thank all students in both universities and technical and vocational education and training colleges who have shown their uncompromising trust and loyalty to the Students' Command of the EFF. These past SRC elections have been an undisputable testament that indeed the future intelligentsia of South Africa is buying into the message of the EFF and the struggle for economic freedom in our lifetime. Of the 21 universities which went to SRC elections, the EFFSC has claimed control of 16, sharing 2, and of course will outline the ones which we have lost. Already, without even completing the SRC election season, the EFFSC has already surpassed the total number of institutions it has won in the past in a given academic calendar. We're not done, yet we have already broken our own record. This is because we are not in a competition with any student or youth-aligned organization of the ANC. We are competing with ourselves. When we wake up in the morning, we ask, how can we improve from yesterday? Not who is our competition, because we have no competition. The EFFSC has won the University of South Africa, the University of the Western Cape, the University of Cape Town, Sol Plaatje University, University of the Free State, Central University of Technology, Bloemfontein Campus, University of Witwatersrand, University of Pretoria, Tshwane University of Technology, Vaal University of Technology, Mangosuthu University of Technology, Durban University of Technology, University of Venda, University of Limpopo, University of Fort Hare, as well as Nelson Mandela University. We have lost CPUT in Cape Town, UKZN, CUT Velcom campus, and we're tied at the University of Johannesburg, where we won 2 campuses out of 4, and SASCO won 2 campuses out of 4, and we share the central seats. In the Northwest University, we won the Mafikeng campus and lost the Potchefstroom campus. In the TVET sector, although the majority of the institutions go to elections in the first quarter of the year, we must highlight our decisive victories in the Capricorn TVET College, Waterberg TVET College, Mtashane, as well as Mfolozi. The organization is readying itself for the first run of TVET College SRC elections, majority of which take place at the beginning of the academic year next year. We now have the task to convert all these SRC victories to the electoral growth and ultimate victory of the economic freedom fighters in the 2024 provincial and national government elections. In all our interactions with students throughout these elections, we've made it a point to emphasize that these SRC elections are not just about SRC elections in and of themselves. Rather, these SRC elections are a means to an end, because we want to remove all all elements of the ANC in our institutions so that we can send a warning shot to the former liberation movement, the African National Congress, that we do not want them in our campuses and we're going to remove them as well in the union buildings next year and deliver a government of the EFF. We have made the clarion call that 2024 is our 1994, that if our elders fought for a political concession in South Africa, our generation must fight for economic freedom. It is only us, the youth, because we constitute more than 54% of the eligible voters who are not registered to vote. Over 5.9 million young people in South Africa will be eligible to vote next year, but as things stand, they are not registered to vote. Therefore, all these SRC elections must translate into the electoral growth and victory of the EFF. After this press conference, every SRC of the EFFSC will be receiving a letter from the Acting Secretary General of the EFFSC instructing them that from now until the voter registration week on the 18th and 19th, all of them must push voter registration programs on campus, and we will be taking reports on a weekly basis. The weekend of the 18th and 19th will be the first voter registration week. The EFF has established a youth and student elections mobilization committee, and already it has systems in place to ensure that we don't only attract the votes at the campus level, but we must also be found in the high schools, we must also be found in our communities, we must look for all youth, including those who are not in education, employment and training. On the court actions, we have successfully interrupted the SRC elections of 3 universities, Northwest University, University of Pretoria, as well as SMU. In other words, they currently do not have a new SRC elected, and elections are either suspended or interdicted, pending the finalization of court and disciplinary hearings. As I sit here, there is currently a court process for the SMU, and we have also filed an objection in the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and for legal purposes, we're not going to delve into much detail when it comes to the University of KZN. The EFFSC is also angered yet not surprised by the developments and revelations of the report into the corrupt dealings taking place at the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. This past week, South Africa learned that the appointments of the service providers to distribute student allowances were not only irregular, they also violated the public procurement processes of NSFAS. Yet again, the EFFSC is vindicated in its fight against the appointment of dodgy service providers who were not only incompetent, but they greedily charge students exorbitant transaction fees. We salute the decisiveness of EFFSC-led SRCs who smelled the rat early and picked up this corruption scheme before the rest of the country could wake up. Early this year, the EFFSC engaged in a number of demonstrations to the Union Building as well as the Department of Higher Education in Pretoria. We even wrote directly to the Minister of Higher Education, Mr. Taddeo-Nxumalo, to whistle-blow and problematize these schemes among the many other issues of higher education. Our efforts fell on deaf ears. We also wrote to the Parliament Portfolio Committee of Higher Education, which is chaired by a former Fees Must Fall activist, Ms. Nompendulo Mkhatshwa, because we held the view that maybe she will feel and understand the pain of the students that she once led. To our surprise, she too sold her soul and protected the establishment against poor students. Today we are vindicated. We told you, South Africa, that these people are stealing. The EFFSC-led SRCs told you that these people are stealing from poor students. Yet today, everyone is shocked. The scandal is now out. We have a 47 billion rand problem. What type of an evil government steals from poor students who already have nothing? We have students who cannot graduate because they owe fees. We have students at the beginning of each year who cannot register because they owe fees. Their certificates are being withheld even when they've completed their qualification. Why? Because they owe fees. But these people can steal and play around with 47 billion rands. We told you, South Africa. We want to make it categorically clear that we reject the proposed solutions of NSFAS, which were writing to the CEO to explain himself, disciplinary action against staff members involved, advising all 4 service providers that their contracts will be terminated in the future, and reviewing of their policies to align them with the National Treasury and PMF. Why must the board ask people to explain themselves? Why are we still stalling with investigations and disciplinary hearings? Why are the dodgy contracts only being terminated in the future? This is a criminal act, and therefore criminal charges must be opened and people must be arrested. We do not have time for Stalingrad hearings. We want to see people who stole the money of students in orange overalls. Our view is that there is a systematic rot of incapacity and corruption in the institution of NSFAS. Not so long ago, the Special Investigating Unit found that NSFAS, together with corrupt university officials and managers, was engaged in the overpayment of funds and has no systems to reconcile between the funds that are dispersed to universities and allocated funds to students. In other words, they are paying ghost students, fictitious students being paid by NSFAS, whilst we still have the students of Walter Sisulu not having their allowances for months and the university being shut down, and many other institutions in South Africa. The culprits in the corruption of NSFAS are still there. South Africa must not celebrate too early. One man could not have acted alone on such a big 47 billion rand scheme. We want more people to be fired, but more importantly, we want people to be arrested. This is a criminal case. It is for this reason that the EFFSC will be opening criminal charges of fraud and corruption against the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. Let us see if this so-called corrupt-free administration of Cyril Ramaphosa will protect criminals who are stealing money from students, or they will act against fraud and corruption in the National Student Financial Aid Scheme. The EFFSC reaffirms the position of the EFF to uncompromisingly stand with the people of Palestine. Those who are neutral in times of injustice have sided with the racist Zionist government of Israel. We cannot be neutral on the question of Israel apartheid. We have a side, and our side are the people and children who are being bombed in their hospitals, who are being bombed in their places of worship, and also being bombed in their homes by the racist Zionist state of Israel. When we condemn Israel, we are not fighting with Jewish people. There are many progressive Jews who have in fact distanced themselves from the human rights violations and genocide taking place in Palestine. We do not hate Jews. We hate the Zionists who are cutting the heads of children and even urinating on the bodies of the Palestinian people. We hate Benjamin Netanyahu. South Africa is where it is today because of global solidarity. Using its SRCs, the EFFSC will be calling for the academic boycott of all institutions and organizations which are aligned to or support the racist state of Israel. This is not a new thing in the world. Even during apartheid, when there were sanctions, the world did not want to play with South African teams. The world did not want to interact with South African institutions which are supporting apartheid in South Africa. So we must do the same. There is a very useless structure called the South African Union of Students. Many of the problems we are currently experiencing are as a result of these sellouts brokering deals and agreeing to policies on behalf of all SRCs, even without thorough consultation with the SRCs and the students. This current NEC of SAUS is not only incompetent, we therefore call for the urgent convening of the National Conference of SAUS. We will be writing to the Minister to demand the National Conference of SAUS no later than 24 December 2023. The Conference of SAUS is long overdue. It must convene now so that we can have legitimate leadership and a smooth and stable start to the new academic year. There is a new sheriff in town. The EFFSC is now in charge of majority of the institutions, and therefore the South African Union of Students must reflect the will of students. We take this opportunity to wish all those engaged in exams, the matric exams, the university exams, we wish you well. We wish you, particularly those who are coming from rural and township schools, because we know that the government of the ANC has neglected you. We know that the study conditions are not conducive to a matric exam. So we have you in our hearts, and we wish you well as you engage in the upcoming matric exams, as well as the university students who are engaged in exams. I thank you.
That was a great speech. I felt he connected with his audience, whether they were there in person or listening virtually. He was very poised. He said things properly, articulately, and confidently. He knew what he wanted to say, and he got the message across. And when it came to time to answer the media questions, he handled it amazingly. like a real professional, like he's been doing it for years. The media is asking questions off the cuff. He didn't have time to prepare, but he knew what he needed to say. The media had questions about the victories and challenges on the elections on campuses, and he addressed those. They also had questions about how the EFF and other political parties are taking action against the scandal with the student financial aid. He spoke on behalf of the EFF and what needs to happen immediately.
How do you feel about the corruption that's been exposed? 47 billion is not petty cash. We come from COVID where 500 billion just disappeared. We don't know where it went. Now we're sitting with 47 billion. We're sitting with service providers on. We're sitting with the CEO that's suspended. We're sitting with the minister that's still there. We're sitting with the HOD that's still there. So in the scheme, we're sitting with the board that's still there. There's no way that one man can approve anything in government in terms of PMFA. I know you highlighted it. In terms of PMFA, that can approve anything more than 500,000, let alone 47 billion. Most of those service providers, the lowest got 5 million, 10 million, and so on. I'll wait for second round. Thank you.
And then on the NSFAS, there's a huge problem at NSFAS. And I think that's why in our statements we reference the SIU report. Because SIU does a full 360 investigation on NSFAS and discovers many problematic elements about it. The point of bogus students being funded by NSFAS, the point of you'll find a situation where one student can be registered in multiple institutions across the country. And that student is getting, there's a bank account that is getting money. So the problem of stealing in NSFAS is deeply rooted. And it was even there before this guy who has just been fired now was removed. It was there, and it was the EFF that has always been championing raising these matters. Of course, we agree that with you that one person couldn't have facilitated, say, 47 billion rand scheme. That's why in our statement we emphasize that. But more importantly, we want to see more people criminally charged. Because the problem with the ANC government, by the way, and this is how it operates in a variety of municipalities across the country, when it removes someone from a place, instead of firing them, it's a redeployment. They don't really fire, they are not firing you. If you become problematic in this department, they remove you here, they put you in another department. It's the same which happens in ministries. They deploy someone to be a minister, this person messes up in this ministry, they say they fired them, South Africans celebrate, then they put them elsewhere. But it's a syndicate inside NSFAS, and it was there long before, and the SIU has pointed to this matter. What we want to see is that criminal cases must be opened. We are leading the way as the EFF Students Command. All of us here as the EFFSC officials were going to go and open a criminal case. And we encourage everyone at NSFAS. We don't want these media leaks, because News 24 is not a police station. Sundayworld is not a police station. IOL is not a police station. We don't want media leaks. There are people who random numbers just sending leaks, this and that. No, there are other people involved. There's this. Go and open a case. It's a criminal case. Everyone must go and open a case so that the police can investigate, the Hawks can investigate, and all NPA authorities, National Prosecuting Authorities, can investigate, and people must be charged. So this NSFAS scandal must not be treated like some civil matter of integrity and all of this. People must be arrested. 47 billion is not a small amount. 47 billion is a big amount. And what makes it even more painful is that we interact with students on the ground on a daily basis. And we know how difficult it is for many students who do not receive their allowances. We know how difficult it is for people to go months without receiving their allowances. So how do you steal in such an environment? Your conscience, how do you lead yourself to steal in such an environment? So the rot in NSFAS must be dealt with, and there is no better time to deal with it than now. And I don't understand why the board is saying the contracts are going to be terminated in the future. What is the future? It's like when you're in a relationship. They must be terminated now. That must be the call that all students in South Africa are making. These people were appointed irregularly. These people didn't follow the Public Procurement Act, the public procurement processes. They must be removed now. And if there is any other process, it must take place in a transparent manner. National Treasury must look at it. The whole of South Africa must see it. But they must go. I don't know why the board is saying these people are going to be removed in the future. But the future can be 2026. The future can be 2030. Come and account. Not in a commission of inquiry, not in some bogus DC of NSFAS. They must account to the court. They must account to the NPA. Criminal charges must be opened against all those who were involved. And then on the deployment process, look, well, the organization has a deployment policy. And the organization primarily functions. The branches themselves must be the primary stakeholders in terms of deciding who must be deployed in various SRCs across the country. That's why you see your BGAs and people come democratically and make recommendations. And then the national must merely come. In most cases, by the way, I mean, we've had, like I said, about 21 SRC elections, we've won 16. And when we compare the number of cases we've had, which we have had, we've won 16, 19. No, the other ones were sharing. So outright it's 16, and then 3 were sharing. So we can say 19, but the total control is 16, and then we're sharing UJ, we're sharing CUT, and then we're sharing, I forgot the other one. So, and SASCO has 1 or 2. So, in all the elections we've been having, really, in the main, we haven't had much issues at the level of constituting. But of course, we've had those branches here and there who've had their challenges, as any other political space and environment would have. But primarily, the branches are the ones that make the recommendations. It's a recommendation, they send to the national structure. And where there is a need, structure will look at things like gender balance, they'll look at things like they'll consider other political factors like is the DC against this person, their experience in student governance. But in the main, majority of the list, they go back to the branches the way that they have come. So, although there have been challenges, but I'm quite happy in terms of how we've handled majority of the constituting meetings in South Africa. Like I said, we've got 16 institutions, and we've only had cases in less than 5 or 4. I think I think I've captured the majority of the questions.
When he was asked a question about the expelled former Secretary General of the Youth League and his thoughts, he answered it very well. He said the EFF leadership handled it the way it needed to be, and he didn't take sides or have an opinion. He answered it very professionally.
On the question of the former Secretary General of the EFFSC, you will remember when we released the statement, the former SG of the EFFSC was suspended by the EFF, and in fact his case was handled by the National Disciplinary Committee of the EFF. You will remember in our 4th NSA, one of the most important amendments we made is that for you to be a member of the EFF Students' Command, number 1, you must be registered to vote with the Independent Electoral Commission, but number 2, you have to be a member of the EFF. So one cannot be a member of the EFFSC without being a member of the EFF. So when the EFF finds you guilty, anyone for that matter, when the EFF finds you guilty, it becomes automatic, even at the level of the EFFSC. So the organization has released and expelled him, and he knows he got the letters, and there are processes that if he so wishes to follow, he may be able to follow.
He was asked questions about what was going on with the Student Council Union, and he answered those well. But what really impressed me is he was asked about the food expiration of what was happening in the townships. And he cautioned the media not to blow it out of proportion, that if people across the globe eat expired food all the time, and not to make it about the township stores, but really to keep to the story.
What is the Student Command's position in relation to the deaths of the young children from the foreign national shops?
No, thank you very much. On the issue of the expired food, so, and I think the Commander-in-Chief clarified this in one of the interviews that he's had. You see, a problem and a trap we must not fall to is to try and make the issue of expired food an issue of spaza shops. Spar, my man, shop right. Our people have been eating expired food, or rather buying expired food for many years from those two shops. I'm singling them out because I myself have had individual experiences. But I'm not writing out the other ones, your Woolworths, your Pick n Pays and all of them. But white companies have been feeding our people expired food. We don't condone, of course, the issue of expired food in these spaza shops. And we send our condolences to the children who passed away as a result. But the narrative that is being pushed, and that is what we must be careful, is that expired food is only being sold in spaza shops. And if we're not careful, we're going to have a situation where spaza shops are being discontinued. Our people lose businesses, our people lose employment opportunities in the townships and the rurals. And then these big corporations will then want to enter that space because the spaza shop economy is a very big economy because the biggest consumers in South Africa are black people and the biggest consumers are black poor people in South Africa. So our people are benefiting from those businesses. So when we push a narrative that it is spaza shops that is selling expired food, it's extremely dangerous. Spar sells expired food, ShopRite sells expired food. What we should be saying is, what are the checks and balances? Is the Ministry of Health doing enough to go and regulate, to go to all shops in South Africa, including restaurants, by the way, to enter all shops that sell food to ensure that our people are eating food of proper quality, are eating food that is not expired. So it's an indictment on the Ministry of Health because it's their responsibility as an oversight body to ensure that our people are not eating expired food in all these businesses that are selling food to our people. So we must not sensationalize it and make it a problem of spaza shop. It's a problem of expired food and it must be dealt with as such.
And then he was asked what it was the EFF was going to do to get the youth to vote. And they addressed the fact that he needed to get the youth to register first on the campuses. That was their focus. And they had a plan. And then after they accomplished that, then they were going to go out to the communities and find the youth that aren't on campuses to get them to register to vote as well, because he knows as well that the youth are going to make a big difference at the polling stations this year coming up in 2024.
Lastly, it goes to your question to say, what should we then do? Because majority of the people who are ineligible to vote, they are youth. As the number we gave, I think was 5.9 million. 5.9 million young people between the ages 17 to 34, who next year they'll be eligible to vote. In other words, they'll be above 18 and within the voting age. But as things stand, they are not registered to vote. And you're correct, because the student population accounts for an odd 1.8 million. So majority of them are in the communities. Majority of them are drowning in drug and alcohol abuse. Majority of them are drowning in teenage pregnancy. Majority of them are not in education, employment, or training, what we call the NEET youth. So the EFF has made that assessment. And the solution to that is that it has formed a youth and student elections mobilization committee. And the sole mandate of that mobilization committee is to say, whilst we consolidate our ground, because the university and TVET space is our ground, we must consolidate our ground. We must ensure that all these students who are voting for the EFFSC, they are registered to vote and they must vote for EFF. But whilst we consolidate our ground, we must also enter uncharted territory. And what is the uncharted territory? We must go to the communities. We must go and speak to the unemployed youth. We must go and speak to the young sporting teams that are not being looked after by the government. We must go to the churches. There are youth structures in the churches as well. So from now until next year, May, we are going to be engaged in that program permanently because we appreciate that universities are not an island and universities exist within a much greater community. So with those words, I think the youth of South Africa are the only people who can save us from this mess. Because we constitute a majority when it comes to voting. It is only us who can remove the ANC from power. It is only us who cannot be blackmailed that Nelson Mandela fought for us. We don't know him, we've never seen him. We don't even know if he exists, or we're just being told stories here. So it is only the youth of South Africa that can liberate South Africa. But the youth must stop saying, I'm not involved in politics, because if you don't involve yourself in politics, politics is going to involve itself in you. And already we see politics involving itself because you're not getting allowances in the institutions. We must ensure that all 5.9 million, all of them, all 5.9 million youth must register to vote. We must make it fashionable to register to vote. And next year we must take a stand and deliver economic freedom in South Africa. If they fought for a political concession in 1994, it is our time to fight for economic freedom in South Africa. Thank you very much.
I was very impressed about how he handled the media and how he handled the press conference in general. And I thought for a moment of how long people have been talking about how Julius Malema is the voice and face of the EFF and what's going to happen when he's gone. And we know that the EFF leadership is strong and that they would be able to carry on without problem. But also, this student leader has proven that the youth of tomorrow are ready to lead in any situation. They're coming up behind the EFF leadership right off the bat to support and help in any way they possibly can. And before you know it, they'll be the leaders of tomorrow. I'd love to hear your thoughts and idea on, first of all, how the youth will play a part in the South African elections in 2024, but also on how you thought the EFF president of the youth leadership did in this press conference and how they're handling the media. Drop your comments below and let's have a conversation. And of course, please don't forget to hit that notification button. That way you're notified each and every time I upload new content. And please don't forget to like and share. Until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.